accepting hardship as the pathway to peace.
You know, it's interesting because when he found out that I did apply for this form when he was ill and the computer, and he said, "Bring me the papers. I don't believe this. This is like the best thing you ever did." So,
I surrender to your will so that I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with you.
how many of those pavilions do you have?
We have 4.
Amen.
Put in a good word for us, Ralph.
So what time do you start in the morning? And you go till like 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock or something?
The first service starts at 9, the last service is at 2:30. And so we go every half an hour, and we can do 2 to 3 services at a time.
And you said services aren't the only thing that you do. You have, you utilize the
Events?
Yeah.
Yes, there are several events that happen throughout the year. The next big event that will be happening is Memorial Day. That's going to be Monday, May the 28th, and it starts at 11 o'clock. We have a guest speaker. The guest speaker is actually the medical center director from Jesse Brown. And then we actually, and this is my first Memorial Day here, so I'm very excited. I am told that they draw up a crowd up to about 5,000 people, so this will be
Oh,
the
wow.
biggest crowd. Yeah, so I'm like super excited. But we have a guest, like I said, we have a guest speaker. The Memorial Squad actually, during the year they do a contest where they have students from a local elementary school write an essay, what does Memorial Day mean to me? And so the top two students will actually read their essay at the Memorial Day program, and then also there will be a elementary school, Coal City. The students will be singing, and then there's also a couple that dresses up like Abraham Lincoln and his wife, and so they will be there as well. So, and then of course we have the honor guard. They will, in a memorial squad for taps and the firing of the weapons. So I'm like very, very excited, to be a part of it.
I always wanted to be buried at a place where they had events and parties,
Yeah.
And something going on every day, so you feel like there's something going on when you're there.
And you want fireworks too.
Yeah, I like fireworks too. I don't know if you've arranged that yet.
Not yet, but I can work on it. Yeah.
But they also, we didn't talk about, this is underground burial and this is with the casket, but you also have a crematory or cremation area.
Right. So at a national cemetery, you have several options. And at Abraham Lincoln, of course, we do casket burials, and then we do cremations. Now for caskets, you can't come in and say, I want this section, I want this gravesite. But for cremations, families do have a choice on whether or not they want above ground or in ground. So above ground is a columbarium, and basically I call it a post office box. It looks like post office boxes for cremations. And then of course you have your in ground cremations. Me personally, I prefer that. Because it's more personal, you can actually put flowers or a flag or something in front of the headstone. Whereas at the columbarium, and that's folks' choice, but there's just a gravel strip and you can put flowers underneath, and it could be 45 long and 4 or 5 deep. So
Now, when can we decorate graves? There's certain times of the year.
you can put fresh cut flowers anytime you would like. Artificials are from October 1st to April 1st. And the reason why we do that is because once we start mowing, we have contractors that actually do our mowing for us. And so it's a little difficult when they have to keep moving artificial flowers. And sometimes if they don't see them, they could actually, mess up the mowers with the artificial flowers. But you can come out to the cemetery anytime you like to visit.
And what hours?
You can visit the cemetery 7 days a week from sunup to sundown. And let's say you forget, where he's buried or someone that you want to visit where they're buried. When you first come into the cemetery, where you stop that day at the Public Information Center, if you go inside, we have restrooms, but also we have a graveside locator. You also, for those people that are, internet and computer savvy, you can go to our website, again, it's www.cem.va.gov, and go to Nationwide Graveside Locator. Either, I think it's on Find a Grave, and you just put in the name of the cemetery and the name of the decedent, and you can actually print out a map, or you can look at it from your smartphone. So it's several different ways that you can find someone that's buried in National Cemetery. Or if it's 8:30, 8 from 4:30 Monday through Friday, you can just call up to the office and we can tell you where the gravesite is as well.
So what haven't I asked you that you think people should know?
Well, I would like to talk about our great volunteers. I mentioned before we have over 125 volunteers at the cemetery. And when you first come into the cemetery, they man the Public Information Center. And also we have volunteers every day that are in the office answering the phone so that we can conduct the services and take care of the services. And then you have the memorial squad. You know, those are the volunteers that were actually out there in rain, shine, sleet, or snow, performing the military honors with the branch of service if the branch of service is available to.
So now
for
when the
service.
funeral director calls, which I thought the family could call, but it has to be a funeral director.
If
and
it's a casket.
Okay, but that's because just anybody could call up and say something that might not be true, right?
Well, with caskets, you need to coordinate with the funeral home
Okay.
and when they can actually come out to the cemetery. Cremation is a little more lenient because the family could actually take possession of the cremains and then they can schedule when it's convenient for them.
Oh, I see, okay.
Yeah.
So then we know what the hours are now, and there must be some other facts that I haven't come up with that you could tell us about.
Well, like I'd like to remind everybody again is that everything we provide is free to the veterans, their families. And probably there are 28 employees at the cemetery, and I would probably say about 80% of us are veterans. And so at some point, we will all be buried in the National Cemetery, so we try our best to make sure that we know that that is a very difficult experience for the families when you come into the cemetery. So we try to make sure that when you come to the cemetery, we're going to take care of you like we would want someone to take care of us.
Well, you did a beautiful job, I have to say, for Ralph.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
We're going to show a tape now called The Sacred Trust, and after that, if we have time, we'll come back and talk to Quincy again. But we have another tape to show you of what goes on at these funerals.
For more than a decade, unpaid volunteers have been providing military honors for deceased veterans at the Abraham Lincoln National Cemetery south of Joliet.
They're called memorial squads, and on this Veterans Day, we get to know a few members of the Friday Squad who, on just one day a week, provide more than 700 honors services every year.
Today we'll be doing 16. We've done up to 21 on a Friday. Okay, shooters will be Ed Condon, welcome back, Salvador Estrada, and the triple mics, Johnson, Mahoney, and Sloan. We do 4 days. We do Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. On the Friday squad, we have 29 current active members. We're doing it for any number of reasons, but the primary one is it's the right thing to do. When the service arrives, we will come to attention. We will then salute the deceased as he or she is brought into the shelter.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Abraham Lincoln National Cemetery, we wish to extend our most sincere condolences for your loss.
I was in the Army during the Vietnam era. There's probably a little survivor guilt involved in this.
At this time, the Abraham Lincoln National Cemetery Memorial Squad will render honors.
Ready, aim, halt, 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 present, Holmes. Now wear sunglasses because I don't want the family to see how this affects me. I've also buried 3 friends of mine here. Hopefully we've allowed the veteran his last honors and the family some closure.
I grew up in south side of Chicago. Joined the Army out of high school in '47. I fold flag. I used to shoot all the time, but I couldn't see the rifle. You got to take it apart to clean it.
He was not legally blind when he started. So he does most of it now by feel.
I can stop by every night, leave, and my daughter drives me. I don't drive. Okay.
Thank you. Hi, Ma.
How we do it? I think of her all the time out here. I don't go home without stopping. We're gonna show up again. Every day is a little tougher.
the people that I admire the most out here are the non-veterans.
On behalf of grateful nation. You're up close and personal with the family, and you can see it really makes a difference for them. My father is a World War II veteran and wanted to be buried here. The day itself was cold, and it was kind of a blur.
Present homes.
The whole presentation just made it a little easier for my mom and our family. Something came over me, and I walked over to the squad leader, and I asked, how can one become a member of the Memorial Squad if you have to be a veteran? And they said, no. Come out to Abraham Lincoln National Cemetery. It doesn't necessarily have to be on Veterans Day, but at any time, just to walk through here, I think, is enough said.
Our thanks to those dedicated. Thank you to producer Pam Grimes and photojournalist Mike D'Angelo for bringing us their story. Abraham Lincoln is the second largest national cemetery in the country. It's located in
That was also, they were showing the retired Chicago police officer star that was given to Ralph, not by the Abraham Lincoln Cemetery, but by the Chicago Police Department. So, Quincy, how did you get to this point? Tell us quickly about where you started. You were in the Army.
Right, I was in the Army, and basically I went in the Army because I didn't want anybody to tell me what to do.
That was the wrong place to go.
Exactly. I was very smart back then. After I got out the Army, I started working for the Department of the Army, and then I started working for the VA hospital in Topeka, Kansas. I met a lady, and she told me about her husband who worked at a cemetery, and I'm like, no way, don't want to do that. Long story short, she introduced me to her husband, and I started working at a national cemetery where I ordered headstones and markers. And then eventually I went into the director's intern program, and this is about my 5th cemetery, and I've been doing this almost 20 years, and I love this. I don't think there's anything in the world that I would prefer to do than to help families at one of the most difficult times in their lives.
Yeah, it is hard. Now, on the headstones, they also give you the option to pick out different things. Like
Absolutely.
I put Shining Star because he had a star from the Chicago Police Department, too. But there are all kinds of options, too.
Right. You have the option of adding additional inscriptions. So once we get the information for the burial and we send the information out to the family, you have that option to add something to the headstone, something that means something to you when you think of your loved one.
Did you have any other questions? We have a few minutes left.
I still would like to ask what branches of the service are eligible.
All branches.
Can you name them?
Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, and then it's the list is pretty long, but the basic branches. And if people have any other questions, because there are some other ones, that they can always give us a call and we can tell them.
And then it wasn't clear where actually the cemetery is, if you can tell where
It's located in Elwood, Illinois. Okay, and the address is 20953 West Hoff Road, Elwood, Illinois.
And is there transportation available for people? It's pretty remote when we went there.
It's very remote, so no, there is no transportation to get there. So, and we always tell people, you know, carpool with someone if you're coming out. But a lot of families, what they do is they will actually come out with the funeral home.
It's really a beautiful, peaceful ride, though. There's a lot of nice scenery. It kind of takes you, you know.
Rolling hills,
Yes.
countryside,
Yes.
peaceful, restful.
Yes.
Yeah, it was beautiful, that's all I can say. It was very nicely done.
Thank you.
I was amazed at what precision because of everything that's going on. And, you know, when we arrived, I mean, it was precisely then, and it was precisely, okay, do this, and then come. But, you know, very nicely done, but very precision timing.
They do that very well. I was very amazed when I came here, you know, at the cemetery reps. They do an awesome job at making sure, and the volunteers, of making sure everybody's where they're supposed to be when they're supposed to be there. So
Now you say you were in Alabama?
yes, prior to coming here, I was at Alabama National Cemetery for 9 years.
So not every cemetery has all of what we have?
No, we did not have a memorial squad at Alabama. We just had the military, if they were able to, you know, come out. But the veterans did not receive like the firing detail, which a lot of folks asked for. So I'm very, very grateful to be here. And I tell the folks all the time, you just don't know what you have. Until you come to Abraham Lincoln and see, all these folks that are willing to do this and make sure the veterans, are honored.
Yeah, and it would be nice to have people go out there before they need it, because then they could find out how
Absolutely.
beautiful it is.
Yes.
You know? So maybe for some of the, now you have Memorial Day, do you have a 4th
We
of
have,
July event?
no,
too?
we don't have a 4th of July, but then the next event we have is Reefs Across America, and that's where volunteers, there's volunteers that will, collecting money so that they can, the goal is to put a wreath on every grave. So if anyone is interested in the Reefs Across America program, again, they can call the cemetery and we can put them in touch with who they need to talk to.
Make donations.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Quincy.
You are
Thank you for
welcome.
joining us.
You're welcome.
And Dr. Diane Meyer, who's a dentist, and Sally Nutini, who's a registered nurse. And I want to thank them all for joining us today. And I really want to thank you for the Abraham Lincoln Cemetery and everything you did for my husband, Ralph Gibson.
My pleasure.
So, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time. I hope you got information that you can use. Give them a call if you have any questions. Thank you for joining us.